welcome back to another episode of OHKO, a Pokemon VGC podcast. Of course, Regulation G is still here. There's an upcoming regional this weekend in Atlanta, and we have the first results of the very first Regulation I Victory Road tournament. So a lot to discuss in today's episode. Cannot wait to get into it. My name's Sierra Dawn, one of your hosts, joined here by my co-host, Joe Brown. A lot happening in the plain scope of Pokemon news. Not much news elsewhere, but hey, it's a VGC podcast, so we'll still have lots to discuss for today.
Yes, absolutely, Sierra. We always figure out the discussions. We're like, oh man, what are we gonna talk about this week? What's going blah blah blah? And then 2 hours later, we figure it out. Have faith, Sierra. We're gonna get there.
100%. Though I know we've both been busy. We're recording this late at night. Valorant started back up for me, so I did not look at any Pokemon over the week, I'm not gonna lie. So this is gonna be my first look, basically, at a lot of other stuff. But I know you've been busy as well, because you had that One Piece tournament, right?
Yes. So even though I moved up to Rochester, I'm still very connected with my old local scene, my local community for One Piece. And they have these store championships, which I guess they're kind of equivalent to our what do we have? League Cup, League Challenge, whatever the TCG MSS equivalent is. I think it's Challenge,
League Cup,
right? Oh, is Cup bigger
Challenge?
than
Challenge
small?
Is the baby one.
Okay, Cup is big. So it's like pseudo equivalent to a League Cup, but it gives you a qualification to Nats. So I guess maybe it's like a little bit bigger. But it's like caps out at 64 players and stuff. And whenever our store or my local store does a store championship, they always ask me to do commentary for it, and I love doing One Piece commentary. I want to do more of it, honestly, like do more events of it, and it's a lot of fun. I think it's a different change of pace, obviously, from video games. Like there were 6 rounds overall, and it's a brand new meta. There was a big ban list that just updated on April 1st. This was the first event post ban list that changed up a lot of decks and things. I had a lot of fun. I was solo, which is TCG by yourself is a world.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, what?
That was the first time I've ever done that, Sierra. I did not know that was going to happen. It was tough.
Oh my gosh!
It was
I'm
fun.
spending energy and goodwill, because that is anyone who's ever tried commentary, you might think, oh, I've seen Twitch streamers have. How hard can it be? And no, solo casting over a game is like one of the hardest things to do,
especially at TCG, right? Like, at least in a video game, there's some visuals, there's some animations and things that might keep people interested. But with a card game, it's all very slow. Someone might take 30 seconds to make a decision and stuff. But I tell you, from the little TCG casting experience I have now from doing a couple One Piece events, those cool moments you have on Color, let's say, Sierra, where you're like, man, I really think he should protect in Swords Dance or something, or if he should fake out and switch out, and then the player does it and you feel like a god. You're like, oh, yes, I'm so smart at this game. That happened to me on with One Piece a couple times this weekend. I'm like, oh yeah, 7 round remaining. If he goes for this, blah, blah, blah. And then he immediately does the play as I say it. And I'm like, yes, I'm not an idiot. It's not like I'm
Best
smart.
moment.
It's I'm not an idiot.
Best moment, especially too. I think people kind of forget for commentary sometimes that sometimes the player has a couple of different routes, right? So then sometimes you'll say something that isn't wrong, but then the player was thinking of a different route for it. Sometimes maybe you're like,
exactly.
Oh, I'm analyzing this. I'm saying this play is if they want to go on aggression, or and they just decide defensive instead. Everyone has different play styles, so you can just be so smart and say all these things, and sometimes it doesn't line up. But when you actually say the same thing and then the player instantly does it, and it's just and especially if you say how that's going to result. Oh, you get the sword stance and you can start all this pressure the rest of the game. Especially do this, and it all so good, so good.
Yeah,
let's go.
I was happy overall. It was pretty good. Since you have a lot of time to talk, you can express your points quickly. You don't have to toss to any or not quickly. You don't have to toss anybody. So exactly, you can take your time is what I meant to say. But I did have the worst, the caster worst nightmare, Sierra.
Did you say time and time again?
No, worse. I butchered the closing call on the championship round. So it was 6 rounds. We're in the finals. For those who don't know how One Piece works, so let's say in Pokemon TCG, you have to take 6 prizes to win, right? It's kind of the inverse way in One Piece. Leaders have a certain amount of life, And when you get to 0, if you attack their life and they can't take another card because they're at 0, they lose the game. So it's like inverse of the 6 prizes in Pokemon, okay? My guy, the winner of the tournament, he's down 5-0 in life. So he's like, it's literally like 6 prizes to 1 left, let's say, in Pokemon terms, right? And he slowly brings the game back. And like I'm like building it up for you. Like, is he gonna come at the ultimate coming, blah, 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 blah. And then like, so he ends up winning the game, and I start popping off, and I'm like, a huge comeback in the finals to get the win by blah, blah, blah. And then he's like mad on camera. Like, he like throws his hands down, and it looks like he's upset. And so in the middle of my call, I'm like, wait, did he lose? What's going on? Like, in the middle of the call. And it was because apparently his opponent was like sandbagged. Like, he knew he was going to lose 5 minutes earlier, and he just kept it going. So there was like, come on, we're wasting time, blah, blah, blah. So like, he won, but he looked upset. So I'm like, wait, did he just lose? What happened here? And like, I had to wait for chat to be like, no, he won. Like, people in the crowd or people in the store were like texting me what was going on and stuff. And like, I was so happy. I'm like, what a cool moment. This is a huge comeback. This is for a championship. This is blah. And then I just butchered the closing call, Sierra. I'll never forgive
you did
myself.
Not trust him. That's
because he looked upset, and I'm like, why would you be upset if you won? But he was upset at his opponent, you know?
Yeah, that's always a tough one too. Like, that's something that also isn't necessarily talked about in commentary enough, but like external factors versus trusting yourself. Like, whether you'll see someone like pissed off, like for myself, while I was backstage writing the cards, watching Wolf versus Dylan the finals, like Wolf had a pop off that looked like anger, and like I seen it, I saw anger. I saw someone who thought he had just lost the game, but then it was also weird because I was like, Wolf doesn't do that. So then it was like, oh, it must not be. But like my initial was like, oh, and that's where I'm like change the cards around. Like, oh, I guess it's Dill's card that we're bringing out onto the stage, not Wolf's, right? Or like when you're actually making a call like mid game, and like going back to the analysis point, you're like, this is going to be the right play, but we can see what player 1 is inputting. Way too many people. We have also both have been guilty of this. You're saying something analytical, you're not wrong, but the player starts to select something different, and you stop in your tracks and like revise what you're saying because the player has you doubting. And then sometimes they just click back and do what you were saying. And then you're just like, so yeah, I mean, that's unfortunate, but like, that's just like, it goes back to learning moment, right? Like, you knew
just trust myself. Like, I knew he had the win secured, so it shouldn't have even mattered how he reacted on camera, you know? Like,
that's always a tough one because it's like, it's so easy to say like after the fact, but like, bro, if I said someone won and then I see him angrily popping off, I'm probably I'm gonna have a moment of doubt too, right? Like, so
like, even though I botched the ending, I was still proud of like the first 98% of the day and had fun and stuff. So that's all that matters.
And again, like it's a learning moment, right? Like, as long as like you're faced with the same situation next time, you don't fold to the pressure, then like, whatever. It's not like you're on the world championship stage and you make that mistake. Like, if you're gonna make that mistake.
That was, I swear to God, in the moment, that was what I thought, Sierra. I was like, as I botched it, I was like, imagine if this was Worlds. Like, if I brought it back to VGC, was like, imagine I'm casting junior finals at Worlds or something, and this is how I casted it. Like, I was so bummed out.
Hey, but it wasn't. So It's all good. It's all good. But hey, the other 98% being good, and also you're still relatively new to like One Piece casting, right? So,
yeah, I've only done like 3 events or whatever, and so still very green on it. It's a different pace than a video game. So
solo casting, like, bro, like I feel at that point, like if you're happy with 98 of what you outputted and you're solo casting, like you're allowed a couple percentage. So if anyone's looking to hire for One Piece commentators,
let me know.
Joe Brown's got you. Joe Brown does all the commentary.
I'm playing in a store championship in a couple weeks, so I'm excited for that. Stay tuned.
Yeah, you have to let us all know how that is. But enough about One Piece. As we said, this is a Pokemon VGC podcast, and I thought it was pretty fun. When we talked about the Switch 2 last week, there was someone in the comments, and it was like, an hour 30 into the podcast, they're like, this is where they start talking about VGC.
It's so true, yeah.
It was like, okay, well, it's the Switch 2 release. Of course, we're going to dive in on that. But it was funny, just like the little reminder of like, VGC.
See, but like, I don't know. I feel like our listeners, our audience, they appreciate our it was big news, and it is topical because Scarlet and Violet are going to be visually upgraded to Switch 2, and the next Pokemon game is going to be on the Switch 2, so it's still somewhat relevant. It wasn't like you can just skip an hour and a half. We did have Pokemon discussions during our Switch 2 reaction, right? But like, our audience, some of our I love our discussion. Some of our favorite moments are when we talked about dinosaurs on the stream. We had that 20-minute Animal Crossing rant, and like we made the whole thumbnail like this was an Animal Crossing, episode instead of a VGC episode. I feel like our audience likes when we like kind of take a detour sometimes.
I hate it. I only want to talk about VGC, so we're only talking about VGC from this point forward, at least in this episode, because I cannot promise
in this episode.
But I mean, Regulation I was something we didn't necessarily get to talk about last week. We kind of had exhaustion from like all the hypotheticals before Reg I was even announced, being like, double restricted. We think it's all going to be this, because it was kind of what we all thought, right? Then when the news came out, it was like, yeah, it's official, but like, what is there really to talk about for this? Because we've hypothetically have talked about it for so long. But finally, over this past weekend, Victory Road has had their April challenge, and they had it in the Regulation I format, which means this is the first look at any sort of result coming out for the competition. And let's just say, when I saw this, I was getting flashbacks to how Regulation G actually started. And that's a lot of Calyrex.
It's a lot of dead horses right there.
Bro, what? This is Pokemon. What are you talking about?
He's a ghost type. He's a ghost type, bro.
No, I don't. See, we don't know how they become ghosts, but Pokemon don't die; they faint. Come on, Joe Brown.
It's a lot of fainted horses on the screen right now. A lot of fainted
horses.
Six of the top 8 have a Calyrex Shadow Rider. That's crazy.
There's even more like down.
And that's
the list.
That's 10 of top 16.
Like there's a lot of Cali Shadow. Oh, we got usage stats too.
Oh, shout out to Victory Road. Let's go. Which, by the way, we had a conversation. VictoryRoad.pro now, out of nowhere. Shout outs to them. Moving up in the world. Not .com, .pro. Let's go.
We still don't know what that means or if it's good or bad, but congratulations.
Congratulations on the updated website.
All right, no. We got to talk about the restricted usage, because the restricted usage is going to be a little bit like weird and stuff to get used to, because obviously it's going from what was normal for our restricted usage, which is you only get 1, to now you're allowed 2.
Yeah.
But 37% day 1 usage into 53% day 2. So over half of the teams that made day 2 of VR had a Calyrex Shadow Rider on them.
That is okay. I'll take the first stab at saying and this should by no means be like a death knell into the format, or everyone's like, oh my god, it's gonna be the worst thing ever, blah 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 blah. We're just taking early stock of the format and what we thinking, right? And so I did not anticipate one Pokemon in just this first big event of the format to be so widely, more used, more popular than the other restrictions. I was thinking maybe some 30% and maybe some 25%, because I'm thinking, okay, well now there's room for Lunala, now there's room for Zacian, now there's room for Zamazenta or Groudon or Kyogre as that secondary restricted, right? And so people are like, yeah, you could run Zacian, or you could run Kyogre, or you could run Zamazenta as the second restricted next to Calyrex Shadow Rider, which is just, I was not expecting that, Sierra.
Yeah, well, I think what is interesting, so we can go back to the restricted usage in a moment, but we see how high this usage is for the Calyrex Shadow Rider, right? And then note that Miraidon and then notably Zamazenta are the next 2 highest usage. Zamazenta with 26.3% day 1, 34% day 2 usage. But if you look, I guess don't ignore the Miraidon, but looking, it's Calyrex Shadow and Zamazenta winning, and then there is another one of those. There's 2 more of those.
Yeah.
Sorry, no, just one, because it's right outside.
The other got bubbled.
Yeah, just outside. But there's a lot of the Zamazentas being paired up, and then we also have the Miraidon. So it's the top restricteds are also the ones that we're seeing more often than not. from the get-go kind of paired with each other. But then you can also just pair it with everything. Like, it's just kind of like, oh, Calyrex Shadow Rider, then roll a dice, I guess. But being able to see, like, it's also the other powerful restricted Miraidon paired up with it. Like, I don't know. It's interesting.
I think this is the prime value that double
we
restricted.
have a restricted pairs usage status.
We do.
I just went past this.
And who's number one, Sierra? Who's the number one duo?
It's what I was saying. Oh my goodness. That's crazy. It's Calyrex, Shadow Rider, and Zamazenta.
Yeah, so this is what these duo restricted formats are really built around, is like you have the star and like you have the guy who alley-oops it up, who passes it, and the guy that dunks it in, right? Zamazenta is supporting Calyrex Shadow Rider. It has wide guard to get rid, obviously in the mirror match, you don't want to face Asperage, you don't want to face against, Glacial Lance or some of these other really strong wide hits. So that's why Zamazenta and also I think Lunala are really good, because if you're 4 times weak to Ghost, horse can't get hit by an Astral Barrage, then you're kind of cooking. Also, those dark types that threaten it, maybe Inciniroar, maybe Roaring Moon, maybe, Urshifu Dark. All of those dark types do not want to take a body press from the Zamazenta either. So there is kind of inherent synergy between the two. The way that, say, our Swordfish combo, which is back from Gen 8, of Kyogre and Zacian work together, right? Like, Zacian's weak to fire, so you put him on a team with Kyogre to make those fire hits hurt a little bit less. Like, this is usually what you see out of restricted duos, are like one big boss guy and the other guy supporting the big boss.
I'm loving looking at what made pairings for day 1 that didn't actually have a single one of them make day 2. So Lunala has definitely been popping off later on in the format, and of course Koraidon has just like gone through the biggest glow up period. And it was 2 Pokemon that were also talked about, like, that would be strong come Reg I. And like, keep in mind, this is this is just the very first like Victory Road tournament. This does not mean these Pokemon won't be good together down the line, but like 0%, 0 of them for day 2. You get to see Miraidon and Zacian. 10 of them day 1, 0 day 2. And or just like teams that kind of like dwindled out, like talking about, oh, that Swordfish, the Zacian and the Kyogre, only 2 making their way to day 2. So it's, I don't know, that's kind of interesting.
How about the Lunadon? That also had 0 conversions too, and that Lunadon won Worlds. Naruto won Worlds with Lunala and Groudon, and now it can't even keep up.
I mean, I kind of left that one out because I honestly like already wrote it off in my brain as being bad. So...
Well, I mean, how about this? How about we add it together? Lunala Groudon and Lunala Koraidon, right? Both Sunsetters and Lunala, and neither version converted to day 2.
That's a good shout out. Also, we can't say anything being like Lunadon or anything anymore. I don't know if you saw James Evans' tweet, but it's like, I'm so excited to build in this regulation. And it was like 12, 16 different combinations of like Calyrex or something, because you can have like Calyrex Shadow Rider with Miraidon or Koraidon or Groudon or Calyrex. So it was just like a bunch of that. So
that's funny. No, I didn't see that.
We need different names for things nowadays, which is...
Well, did you see Justin Karras' tweet? He's trying to get people to be creative with these team names here.
That's true.
I'm all for it. We need good names.
We do need good names, since that is just like being named after someone. Even though, like, I do think that's also just like cute in itself. Like, the first person to get like a really good accomplishment, like, that's also like it's a treat, Like, I don't know.
We need that cool. Sierra Shadow Rider Zenta to some Sierra Zenta. We'll workshop it.
You think I'm going to use Zamazenta?
And you're gonna crack the meta with the most popular secondary restricted, and then we're getting. Sierra's the one that thought of it. That's what I'm gonna say.
Yeah, sure, bud, sure. But all right, restricteds. Yeah, I mean, long story short, when Regulation G started, when we looked at the Victory Road tournament, Calyrex Shadow Rider was like the dominant Pokemon.
Yeah.
So this, I think, I'm sure there's going to be more online tournaments before we get to our very first Reg I tournament, which should be Milwaukee, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm sure there's going to be more VR tournaments. My biggest question is are we going to repeat the same pattern from Reg G, where the same Pokemon is so dominant that you are then going into fully countering it? Or does the team just inherently also counter itself in the fact that this is going to be like kind of the archetype that kind of breaks things a little bit? Because on paper, this just looks really strong.
Yeah, it seems, especially with just how this first event has worked out here, with just like we're using really fast, really strong duos like Zashi and Miraidon, or Shadow Rider Zamazenta, or Shadow Rider and Miraidon as well too. I mean, that's like as fast as you can get there. Really, like, I guess you're just using. If we look at like the teams, as you can see, that first place team by Lorenzo winning, it is pretty much like a restricted duo with a balance core for defensive utility in Inciniroar or Urshifu and Ogerpon. Yes, Miguel and these Dondozo players, they will not quit, Sierra. They don't care.
No,
they
I'm
don't
talking
care
about the Sneasler. I thought we left this behind.
Oh, I thought I was talking about the Dondozo. I've seen some tweets about how people don't care what letter is in that regulation name. They're just going to make Dondozo work, and it's I guess it's working out so far.
All they had to do was replace Sneasler with Fluttermane, and this could have been the new 2-2-2. Like, two of the fastest, strongest restricteds. Fluttershy, Dondozo, Tatsugiri.
Miguel, come on.
Come on, you're so close. I mean, a Sneasler and anything not Reg H is always a surprise.
Well, yeah, what's the Sneasler doing? Because, like...
What's the Sneasler doing?
I mean,
toxic spot. I mean, I guess, like, for Dondozo.
It's for the Dozo, yeah. It just gets knocked out, and... whatever, you get the double speed, get a fake out, get a toxic spikes up, then he gets knocked out. Ooh,
I didn't even know that. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, the Sneasler like literally can't touch Shadow Rider, who's on half the teams. Like Dire Claw's resisted, close combat's immune. Like fake out doesn't hit Shadow Rider. So it must be for some other matchups that Dondozo struggles into.
It's just also setting up the spikes. My thing with the Spike Sneasler and then the Dondozo Tatsugiri is I look at this and I'm like, guys, like, we're in a double restricted format.
Guys, come on.
Like, you don't have one restricted to take down and then you're free reign or whatever.
They have three restricted, Sierra. They have two legendaries and Dondozo.
Sure, dude. Like, I'm not a believer, but I will say that Dondozo Tatsugiri players always find a way, and I gotta applaud them for that because, I say that I love Slitherwing, but as soon as Reg C stopped and I could not build a team with Slitherwing on it, I kind of went away from that. So you know what, I respect it.
If Slitherwing was as fringe viable as Dondozo, I think you would have put more effort into it. But we kind of got the answer right away on Slitherwing.
Slitherwing got a top cut in a Terra Square event.
Ooh.
Yeah, let me grab that up. Let me pull that up.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
But I do think what Lorenzo's team has here with the Inciniroar Urshifu Ogerpon is I think that is what we can expect to do well, because a lot of these balanced teams, especially at a large event, if you want to quote unquote play it safe, you want to just have a well-rounded team, you're just giving yourself good stuffs. Like in Wolf's Worlds video, when he was like, I'm tired of trying to break the meta, I'm just going to use the best Pokemon. And then he goes 18-0 in games before cut, and has quite literally the 6th highest most used Pokemon in the format on his team. It's just well-rounded. They're good for a reason. Inciniroar Urshifu is going to work. You have redirection with Ogerpon and damage output if you wanted to terastallize it too. I would definitely anticipate that to be the big contender at first.
Yeah, I gotta show the Slitherwing before I forget about it. But look, there's a Slitherwing. There's
nice.
Groudon, Rillaboom, Fluttermane, Thundy I always forget.
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, Thundy Farigiraf, and Slitherwing. The one with the tail that's poof, that has the Volt Absorb.
It's Therian, yeah, because Lando also is Therian in that form.
I didn't play through Gen 5. I don't know. So yeah. I don't know.
That is an interesting team by Poke High. Shout outs to them.
Yeah, top 8 at Terra Square. Just throwing that out there. Just saying.
I mean, where were we the whole format? Poke High. Where was Slitherwing the whole format? You know,
it could have been sooner. I don't know. I don't know. But I accidentally closed the Let me read that. Yeah, other strong
Did
things. I
you?
mean,
I was gonna say, if you look at that Canadian team there from Michael, that's a bit of a.
Sea Wolf Mikes.
That's a I'm gonna hate myself for saying it, but there's a bit of a Arubega Reg I version, right? Because it's got more like my rules of Arubega. It has to have Miraidon, Whimsicott, and Iron Hands. That is my rule, and so
Okay.
it's fulfilling that because and everyone said Rainy Sun like just because it had Groudon on it, like like we got to have rules here for team names, and so this is kind of a Reg I
Gotta have
Arubega where
rules.
you just added Lunala to it, which makes sense, right? Like Trick Room, Wide Guard, the Moongeist Beam is really strong, obviously, into Shadow Rider. Like if they only have Astro Barrage, then Lunala is incredibly safe into Shadow Rider because you can just Wide Guard it forever. So you can't get fainted, right, as a ghost type. So I think it's cool. Oh, and the Electric Seed. I actually did not see that, Sierra. So
Yeah, I
boosting
think
your
Electric
defense.
Seed's going to be an interesting one with a couple of these teams. Someone else had posted out as well about like Electric Seed, like Penta, etc. Just different ways to kind of build out these Pokemon. I'm trying to find a team. No, that is not it. I'm trying to find.
Is this a Reg I team or?
Yeah. So no, sorry, Reg G. So
okay.
something when you're talking about teams that's like, hey, this looks inspired by. Something I looked at was this team from Yuyang, which has 5 of the same 6 Pokemon that
it's Ugarte Light, if you will.
using.
Yeah,
but I'm like, what was the 6th Pokemon over the Zacian? That's what I can't quite remember at the moment. Not the Zacian, the Zamazenta. That's what I was trying to find out what time he like used that team last. Because like would have been Vancouver. Vancouver. He's played this team for so long.
As you're looking it up, the greatest post in the history of the OHKO Discord in the memes channel with the if Joe went to college, Joe Smarte.
Oh my gosh. I don't think you can say all of it.
I can't say all of it, so just go join our Discord if you're not in the OHKO Discord. It's a really fun place to be. Check out the memes channel. I missed the original time it was posted, and Sierra put it in there. And truly, I was actually laughing out loud when I read that whole Usparte.
It was a good one. It was a good one.
Great.
So Joe's 6 is the Miraidon, Ditto, Volk, Urshifu, Rapid Strike, Iron Hands, Grimmsnarl.
Well, you got a fighting type, so that makes sense. So
yeah, just swap out a fighting type for a different fighting type. But that one was kind of one that caught my eye real quickly. Especially too, I think for this regulation, it is going to be like some things that have worked in Reg G, where you can kind of upgrade a Pokemon, etc. And then yeah, I think it's better than 2 restricted. 3 restricted. Why not have a Ditto and throw that on these teams, right?
I mean, that was when a lot of people started using Ditto in when we were in Los Angeles together. Remember, like they're like, hey, you've got a nasty plot Shadow Rider. Don't mind if I do. Mine has a scarf on it. Like yours has a life orb or whatever or leftovers.
I'll never forget that Ugarte versus Burns match. Yes. That was with the Dittos. That was a good one. But other teams, there's.
How about Marco's team? I was going to say. Like, Marco's really been committed to this Terapagos bit. I
mean, this also seems like a fun little duo here. The Calyrex Shadow Rider and the Terapagos. This is just like 2 strong things and 4 good stuff Pokemon.
I'm trying to think of how, like, is he bringing them together? Like, obviously he's going to bring both of them in the same game. I mean, like, as a lead, I'm trying to figure out how Terapagos and Shadow Rider interact because they kind of both want the spotlight, right? Like they kind of both want to be the guy that you build around. Calm Mind on Terapagos or Nasty Plot in this case on the Shadow Rider. So like having them next to each other, do you just click Nasty Plot, Calm Mind, and like whichever one lives the turn is your carry for the game? Like I don't know, Marco's doing it.
I don't know, but it might be a little more focused on the Terapagos if the team name is Pagos Redemption Arc.
I told you he's committed. He wants to make Terapagos work.
I mean, it could be also one of those things too, where you don't necessarily have to bring both restricted. Like that was kind of a comment that was like stuck out. It's like I definitely think there's way to be bringing both. I think that you can apply some nasty pressure with the Calyrex Shadow Rider. while the other team tries to set up, get in place, you can just calm mind with the Terapagos and start getting set up, etc. Or you can kind of leave one of those pieces at home. But I think that's going to be a big thing that's seen maybe a little bit more down the line with the regulation is if you have all the other strong Pokemon, you don't need both restricted. It's just
Sure.
you have 2 restricted that work harmoniously. It works out, but
it's kind of like Reg G matchup dependent here for Marco, but like let's say you had a Terapagos and we're playing Reg G and Terapagos has a bad matchup. It's like, okay, well now you don't have to rely on Terapagos the way that you had to in Reg G, right? So then you just focus on Shadow Rider as your main damage dealer and use the Inciniroar Urshifu, and then vice versa. If Shadow Rider is a bad matchup, then you focus on Terapagos instead. Like it's kind of like a 1.5 restricted duo instead of like a 2 restricted, because you're choosing one as the main source every game instead of using them together in synergy.
This is something that you'll appreciate, but when we're looking at Ogerpons, Hearthflame did win.
Yes.
So definitely, there's going to be a lot of Rillabooms and stuff like that out there. So, and being able to have a grass move to it's still, Hearthflame's still strong. But a lot of Cornerstone Ogerpon, I definitely do think that this is going to be, I've always been a Cornerstone Ogerpon, denier. I've never really cared for the Pokemon. I can definitely see where there's utility for it, but, I like the other Ogerpons more. But just having a sturdy built in, I think when you are in a double restricted format, especially, I think it's just super, super impactful. So it's, it kind of makes sense that there's going to be a lot more of these teams. And maybe it doesn't pressure a Rillaboom as much as the Hearthflame Ogerpon can. But you have the sturdy, you have that redirection. And there's other ways to kind of pressure the Rillaboom too on these teams. So
Yeah. I think it's very interesting to note of that stretch of cornerstones. Only one of them, Roberto's team, has the Ice Rider on it, so it's showing you it does not have to be Trick Room focused. Now, yes, technically Terapagos is kind of mid speed, so you can try to run Trick Room if you want. But I think that's what the development of Ogerpon has been over the last year in the metagame, is that especially in Reg G 2.0, we saw with Alex Underhill and Marco and other Terapagos players, the cornerstone Heatran core on that Terapagos team, showing that there is a place for quote unquote mid-tier speed Pokemon as long as you're redirecting it, and if you got sturdy, then you're keeping Heatran safe twice from 2 different hits, So I am excited to see it's particularly if how Terapagos and Cornerstone are gonna continue to synergize together this format.
Yeah, one thing, because you called out the Calyrex Ice Rider team, Calyrex Ice Rider, it was the 2nd highest for day 2 usage. But if you're looking at that comparison to the main Calyrex, if you're looking at restricted pairs, right? The very first top pair is the Calyrex Shadow Rider and the Zamazenta, with 10 of these duos on day 2. Then you're 2nd place, Ice Rider and Miraidon. Okay, they had 6 of them. That's only 4 less, these horses are equal. Okay, no, because then the 3rd place team is the Calyrex Shadow Rider again with Koraidon. You add 3 more to the count there. So now 13 to 6. Okay, kind of just double. Okay, now look at the 6th place duo, and now you have Calyrex Shadow Rider again and Miraidon. So now you're at 15 to 6. Oh, you want to talk about 8th place? Look at that. It's another Calyrex Shadow Rider, now with Terapagos. 4 of those. That's now 19. There's there's so many more of these Calyrex Shadow Riders and how they're being built in comparison to the Ice Rider, which kind of just seems to be left by the wayside in a lot of this team building, or at least in terms of also the results gotten with it.
Yeah, I do find that really interesting that of the top restricted duos, Ice Rider's only on there once, and maybe it might be indicative of it's Shadow Rider is very splashable, right? The same that it was in Series 12 back in Sword and Shield in 2022. Shadow Rider is just incredibly fast. That can, if it gets an Astral Barrage off and starts picking up, Grimnade boost, it can steamroll the game. And that's why you saw so many Shadow Rider secondary slots or Zacian secondary slots with that 148 speed. I think also Edu had a Shadow Rider on his Worlds winning team that year. So you just know that's why it was good. But Ice Rider, the conditions need to be more precise for Ice Rider to work, and the team needs to be more built around Ice Rider's success than Shadow Rider does, who can just be like kind of plopped onto a Reg G Terapagos team on Marco's head looking for a redemption, right? Like, you can't really just plop Ice Rider onto teams. I am surprised not to really see success from Ice Rider Lunala, because that was one of the things that we had pointed out when the format first got announced, on like two relatively slower Pokemon with both having access to Trick Room, and you wide guard the Astro Barrage weakness to keep Ice Rider safe. So I'm surprised that didn't show up in any of it, but I'm sure over time people will figure it out.
I think it's also one of those things, like, there is nothing that early format likes more than just like hyper offense.
Pushing buttons. Yeah.
Yeah, like you push the buttons and your Pokemon go fast, they do a lot of damage, and you're like, yippee. I think somebody in the Discord said it. I cannot remember who, but it's like the duo or like these teams that it's like, take the damage and shake my hand, and it's all fun and games until they actually take the damage, and then you're like, oh, and then you like lose, right? Which early formats very much so of that. So I'm looking at, like, again, the correlations with Reg G, where like we discounted Lunala completely, and it took the second time all the way through till the end, basically, for Lunala to finally start getting this wind. More Trick Room teams to start coming up. The Kelch obviously won an event recently with more of a Trick Room team. There's going to be another event shortly that we'll be talking about with a Trick Room team. So yeah, the format kind of slows down, and I'm sure we'll get to see a little bit of that. But before I move on from this, we get final usage Pokemon. I don't like how this is laid out. I gotta change it a little bit. Goes down 1 to 10,
down, yeah.
And then so it's 3 different columns, not left to right here. I don't like that, but whatever. Incineroar for day 1 usage, the top of everything. But when you look at day 2, it's the Rapid Strike Urshifu and the Rillaboom, both that actually 50% of the teams and are going to be tied for the top spot.
Who could have foreseen that Inciniroar Urshi would continue to be a good core here in Reg I? And I think that's probably fair. I am surprised that the day 2 Rillaboom usage is 50%. Like, maybe people are cooking, maybe people are, because there were so many Miraidons, they are that prepared for Miraidon, right, with their own grassy terrain to counter it. So could have been a luck factor of the tournament that there was so much Miraidon that Rillaboom players got rewarded for. But I do think that 32% is probably very solid for Rillaboom as a foundation for the format as a whole. The Iron Hands also shows that not how good Iron Hands is, but how good Miraidon is, right? Because Iron Hands, when Miraidon was not around, people stopped using it for a little bit, and then post Worlds and the Arubega team obviously made everyone use it again, because imagine if it had Assault Vest and an ability, like as we always said with Quark Drive for a year plus. The Hearthflame and Cornerstone being next to each other, that's a little preview for questioning our predictions later on, Sierra, for Atlanta. But I think that is what's so interesting to me with Ogerpons is, if you go back in time, the Ogerpon Wellspring was not only just the best Ogerpon, it was head and shoulders, clear cut, not even a conversation, and it's all format dependent. So
didn't it get 60% usage at one point? Like it was
many
like
events 62%. In a row. It was eclipsing 60, 64, 65% usage because Urshifu was there, and we didn't have Miraidon in the format, right? So you can redirect it away. We didn't have these huge threats to stop it. And now Wellspring is there was actually 2%, the 28th most used non-restricted Pokemon,
and
right?
Not a single one made day 2.
Yes. And so we go from like Wellspring is the greatest, like without a conversation, to Reg F, I want to say, where Hearthstone was the greatest without a conversation, and then now it's Cornerstone, and now, like, I think and then Diego wins Reg G with Teal Mask. Like, it's just like the coolest Pokemon that's ever existed. Like, every version of it is viable, you know?
You stole my transition. I've been sitting here and I was like, I had like the juiciest transition cooked up to be like, you know what Ogerpon is actually missing here is the Teal Mask, but don't you worry, because I found it. Look at just what won Brisbane Regional. Like,
what a transition! What a transition!
I mean, it was so good, but like it's ruined. So
I'm sorry.
So thank you for that. Thank you.
I
But
try my best.
man, we were supposed to be a team over here. But
I think that shows that we are a team, that we were thinking alike without even communicating it. We were on the same wavelength.
Damn, you right. But back over to Regulation G, as that's going to be it for our Regulation I talk for right now. There's still things happening in our VGC world, and Brisbane just happened over the past weekend as well. And look at this. It is a Trick Room team to win. Diego Ferreira, super skilled player. And looking at this team, I mean, we get the Flame Orb Ursaluna. We got a lot of great Trick Room options. But the Ogerpon Teal Mask is one that we don't really get to see too often.
No, I think it's always cool when Teal Mask pops out, right? That's the quote unquote iconic one. That's all the imagery used in promotional art, and that's the one you interact with in the storyline and the DLC. But it's definitely the least common of the 4 versions, which is ironic, because when Ogerpon first came out, everyone thought it's going to be the most flexible, as it's the only one that is allowed to hold an item, right? All the other 3 forms have to hold their mask in order to change that typing. So people thought, oh, Ogerpon could be Focus Sash or Leftovers or Life Orb or Choice Bear, whatever for Teal Mask. So that's going to be the most versatile. And it turns out people don't care about versatility. They care about follow me and good resistances. And that was why Cornerstone and Wellspring in the Urshifu format and everything are used. And this Ogerpon still has Follow Me Focus Sash. Like, that never goes wrong, especially on a hard Trick Room team like Diego's or anything. Like, you're not long for the world. You want the game to be over before Trick Room runs out, right? So who cares if you just got any Focus Sash? Follow Me. The taunt is probably huge for Amoonguss, right? Because as a grass type, you're immune, and then you can't run safety goggles or anything. You just taunt the Amoonguss, because Amoonguss is slower or underspeeds, I should say. Underspeeds Ursaluna, underspeeds Ice Rider, and things like that, right? So, no safety goggles on Indeedee this time around. Terra Fire, very interesting. I wonder if that's just like a Koraidon answer or something. You don't usually see Terra Fire on Indeedee.
Yeah, I like, obviously for Brisbane, it's not a broadcasted event. What I didn't realize till checking it out now is that the finals was recorded. Bless the people that will stand there with their phone and actually record the matches. That's something I have to see after, because I think I kind of struggle to see how a couple of these pieces work. I mean, there's like, it makes sense, but then I think about it more and I kind of struggle a little bit, but I'm also not a great team builder. Like, I think like the Ogerpon, and then I see the Ogerpon with Focus Sash, and I kind of think like, well, this could have been a Cornerstone Ogerpon instead, but obviously not feeling the pressure, like the need to here. I just think like some of the common immunities are like the same here.
Then you have no super effective hit for Urshifu, right? If you go with then it's a rock grass. Like, I guess he doesn't even have Ivy Cudgel. He has Wood Hammer. This is crazy, Diego. Why do you not have Ivy Cudgel on the Ivy Cudgel Pokemon? I'm with you, Sierra. I'm lost.
I mean, it's made for damage, but like, I guess maybe for Defiant if you're worried about Intimidate spam, but then I look back to if you had the Cornerstone Ogerpon, you would have the Rock type Ivy
You'd have Ivy Cudgel for Inciniroar.
To then be able to take care of it. Same with when you have the Ursaluna and you have something like a Headlong Rush. I don't foresee Inciniroar doing too good into that anyways, which then re-brings the question up for me, right? Then I think of like, okay, well, like, it's just, I don't know. I'm curious.
The knockoff too, Diego? Like, nobody uses knockoff Ogerpon, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, like, I'm definitely intrigued. Like, after we're done with this podcast, I regret that I didn't get to see that it was like the finals was up beforehand, but a little snippet does show that he brought the Ogerpon to the match, so I am excited to see kind of how that goes. The only thing that I can think of offhand is not taking super effective damage against water types, but when I think, like,
and having an earthquake resistance too, right? Because there's no flying types on the team, so
yeah, I just like, yeah, it's interesting, but I definitely, like I said, like I'm not a Trick Room player, and I'm not a team builder by any means. So obviously, if you're winning a regional, I trust your choice in this Ogerpon, and I'm glad that we get to see it. So we get to have like each one of the Ogerpons really kind of stepping up at any single point.
Well, and especially with Diego, right? Like got top 4 of Worlds with in this format using a hard Trick Room team. I'm not sure if all if at least like maybe 4 of the 5 Pokemon or 4 of the 6 Pokemon are the same. I'm not sure about Raging Bolt and Ogerpon, but Raging Bolt, look at that Weather Ball. That's actually a pretty cool tech where I think people have like kind of fallen off on Raging Bolt from what it was in Regulation F when it was just dumpstering everything, like booster energy, Draco Meteor, boom, you're dead. Like now it's just consistent damage, and I think the Thunderbolt, the Dragon Pulse, the Weather Ball, especially with Torkoal, is like you're doing solid chip damage on this Trick Room team that then allows the spread Glacial Lance, the spread Earthquake, the spread Eruption, like to be that difference in the KO or not. Like if you do 20% with Weather Ball and Eruption, now it only needs to do the 80%. Like they're not going to live with a chip of health before. So I like this version of like kind of a bulky Assault Vest Raging Bolt that's still going to get a boost because Torkoal is there, and you're just doing like solid chip damage with it. I think that's cool.
All right, total like detour, but
Sure.
Has it always been a case to where the color of the dash is the same color as the move type next to like on the Pokepaste? Because I
never paid attention to that.
I swear that because it's a white text on a black background, and all of a sudden I'm seeing next to Thunderbolt, it's a yellow dash. Thunderbolt isn't yellow, it's just the dash. Next to Dragon Balls, it's like that dragon type purple they have. Thunderclap, it's back to the white text. I don't know, but Weather Ball, like it's not like consistent, but like
Knockoff is a black text, Woodhammer is a green dash.
Taunt is the same color as Knockoff because it's both dark. Like the Psychic, Heal Pulse, Trick Room, it's all the same, like pinky purple. Like
I don't like change, Sierra. We got too much going on. We got colors in our Pokepaste now. We got VictoryRoad.pro instead of .com. This episode, there's too much things changing right now. I don't like it. I don't like it.
The world changes too fast. You sound like such an old man right now, Joe Brown.
I feel like an old man right now. I'll tell you what.
I just need to know if this is always a thing, because like I
don't remember, to be completely honest. I never thought about it.
Like I have a bad memory in terms of remembering stuff, but I feel like I normally have a pretty good like this isn't what I remember. Like this isn't. I like I'm aware of those things. I don't know, but yeah, this team overall great win, great stuff. I'm scrolling back up to the top of the page. We can see what else did good.
Shohei.
Shohei, the third place. Your favorite player.
That's my guy.
Yeah, that's your guy. Second place, Joshua Sutherland Smith. We have Zamazenta, and then there's other good stuff Pokemon. Also, the return of Qianpao Dragonite.
Ooh, I feel like that's is that like a Osh special that like you could get? Get away with is obviously not the correct word I'm looking for, but like you can take advantage of the aggressive player base down in Australia that we know. Like remember Overquill got top 8 at NAIC because of Henry Rich, like that type of aggressive nature of Australian players that like the Qianpao Dragonite Zamazenta is just like the worst bulky offense nightmare because all your calcs that you've run, this is gonna pop this, this is a 3-hit KO, and that's all just out the window when you have Zamazenta body pressing and Dragonite E-speeding next to the Qianpao. So I think Qianpao has been. I wonder how that's gonna do in the next format, but particularly in Reg G, I feel like the issue with Qianpao is that even though it has an incredible ability, it's just not able to get the 1-hit KOs that it used to be able to, especially like Reg C, right, when it was super dominant. So maybe that's why it's kind of dipped down in usage, but happy to see Joshua doing well with it.
I mean, I feel like with Qianpao as well, just like typing wise doesn't match up against stuff. And like something that Qianpao had going for it was its speed, which now we have things that are faster than it that match up really well into it. And then you also had like these sucker punches that could off-put a lot of damage, and I feel like everyone in their Nan right now has any sort of priority blocking on the team,
yeah,
which has made it a little tough. So and then it's also like dependent on its partner. So, like, yeah, with the Dragonite and a Zamazenta, that makes a lot of sense. You also have Urshifu and Heartflame Ogerpon on this team. Every single one of these Pokemon is going to take advantage of dropped defenses, and then you like the Fluttermane to like Fluttermane's Fluttermane, right? But
Yeah,
it definitely has kind of disappeared a little bit.
yeah, I
but
do.
There's more of it here. There's more of it at least for Brisbane.
I like
There's a which one? The Mesprit?
Mesprit,
17th
yeah.
place?
That's Sam Pandelis. What is he up to? He's always crazy. Crazy teams.
The Mystical Power, Dazzling Gleam, Thunderwave, Protect. So
I like it.
Well, what? Like,
I don't know. I'm just.
I was about to ask why it couldn't be a Fluttermane, and then I saw that there's also a Fluttermane. So I guess there's
this
Fluttermane.
There's this thing in the rule books called the Dex clause that you can't have two Pokemon of the same Dex entry. So can't have two Fluttermanes on the team, Sierra. Sorry.
Sam really said like, all right, bet. Like
that is hilarious though, to just like put them both together. Like maybe it was a challenge to, be like, oh, can I like what bad restricted can I? It's not restricted, it's a legendary, but whatever, you know what I mean. I think the Terra Water is obviously anti-Urshifu. Like you Terra Water, you live the Surging Sparks, and then you just Dazzling Gleam or Mystical Power back into its face. I would have thought it would have been a Terra Dark, so that's why I'm interested in Sam's team, because one, you now resist Astral Barrage, you're now immune to Prankster Taunt if you go Terra Dark. Like you see that a lot on supported Pokemon, right? Especially Psychic types, like Gothitelle and other Psychic types that turn to Terra Dark. So very interesting choice here. I wonder in how many of Sam's games did they bring the Mesprit?
I just don't know anything about this game anymore. I'm not gonna lie. I am just shocked. I think,
especially because Mesprit's like the middle ground one, right? Like if you're trying to be supportive, most people would use Uxie, who has the higher bulk.
Yeah, kudos. Again,
making me
way
proud.
better player than me. That's for sure. I'm just
got second at Worlds in 2017, so
yeah. And then 17th with Mesprit in this day and age.
That's what's going to be on the graphic the next time is like 2017 second or finalist Worlds, and there's like 17th Mesprit.
Honestly.
I also like Kieran's team here because like why wasn't Kieran thinking? Why didn't he just put another restricted on this team? We looked at Marco's Terapagos team for the redemption. I'm like, Kieran, why don't you just put a Shadow Rider next to your Terapagos, silly? And I remember it's because it's Reg G here. I'm an idiot.
Okay, I was sitting here and I'm like, oh my god, he is an old man and it's past his bedtime. What's going on over here? No, this is just a strong, annoying team. We've seen this team.
The Screentail is certainly frustrating to deal with.
Yeah. Other teams. There's a couple more Heatrans. We get to see the infamous Galarian Weezing Dondozo.
Your favorite.
Ray Moon. Yep, another Galarian Weezing. Iron Valiant, Alistair, 13th place. There's a lot more Qianpao than I kind of expected. I think is a big thing.
Yes, I would agree.
Actually do get a Golden Go, 19th place, Daniel Walker. But other things, I will say this is one that I want to talk about. This is teams that didn't. These are teams that made day 2, but it didn't make cut.
Cut, yep.
And we're cooking.
Rabska.
We're cooking.
Bro, how about this? How about we have Miraidon just do a bajillion damage, and then it gets knocked out. And then you Revival Blessing, and then you just bring Miraidon back to do more damage. I think it kind of cooks.
I have a genius idea for a team in general,
I'm
okay?
Listening.
This is a Reg I team.
Let me get my notebook. Okay.
All right. Listen carefully. You have your 2 restricteds.
Yeah.
You have Ditto.
Yep.
And you have Rabska.
Rabska, okay. Or Palmot, whichever one you prefer.
Whatever you prefer. Whatever. So you have your 2 restricted. With Ditto, you have a 3rd restricted. And then the Rabska's literally just to get back one of your restricted. So you just had 4 restricteds in your match. You know what that is? 2 more restricteds than all those other fools are playing.
That's Sierra. You gotta call the fire department because you're cooking so hard. You're burning the kitchen down. That's how hard you're cooking right now.
Anyone runs that's the Sierra smoke right there. Four restricteds.
Oh god, I also feel so sad seeing this Galarian Zapdos work because I tried so hard to make it work on that Zacian team, and it's a completely different build than the one I had. I was like Scarf, trying to just and this is Tailwind and Covert Cloak and stuff. I'm like, gosh, why am I not as smart as Dat Luong? Why did he get Zapdos to work and I can't get it to work?
One thing I think is like interesting about this team is the Miraidon. We're so used to like the normal Miraidon sets, but this one, instead of specs, is Life Orb with Protect, which
I like that.
The amount of times I wish that I had Protect on the Miraidon, like, has definitely been up there, but like,
right.
I know you do boatloads of damage, but isn't this like heavily impacting that?
Well, so think about it this way, right? It's obviously matchup dependent, plus Dat has access to 2 Miraidons on the team with the Revival Blessing, so you don't need to do the specs damage. But how many times did it work out for them that their opponent probably Draco'd into Miraidon's Protect, right? Where everybody is just used to specs and used to not being able to protect, that like he probably won some games off of over-aggression into that Miraidon slot and then just keeping yourself safe. Because even with the specs damage, like with all the multipliers and Hadron Engine and the electric terrain, like it's almost overkill sometimes the amount of damage Miraidon can do. So like sacrificing 20% of the damage at the rate of changing your attack around and also being able to protect yourself and take no damage to, I can understand. It is a scary position, but I understand the Life Orb.
I think I found a spicier team. All right. This got 29th place. And yeah, that is in a Krosma Dawnwing. So like
the Discord would be happy with that one.
Different Lunala, I guess. Like I look at this and it's Expanding Force, Moongeist Beam, Meteor Beam, Trick Room. Like, isn't this
Lunala? This the Lunala that won Vancouver, but just with a little more hardcore?
Just a different, technically like different name. So you could like if you won, then you'd be the
slower,
first.
So that helps. It is 77 speed compared to 97, so that probably helps the Trick Room matchup a little bit more.
Yeah.
But
got hard Trick Room. You also got that Hisuian Lilligant. If you want to just go for a fast mode with the After You Torkoal Eruption, like that sort of shenanigans.
That's the Pokemon I can never get to work. When I try these hard Trick Room teams, I never make the right decision on which games to bring Hisuian Lilligant or which games not to bring it. I'm always like, I don't think I need it. I'm like, man, I wish I had it. Or, okay, I'm going to bring it. And man, I should not have brought this game every time.
Yeah. Also like how this team is 3 Trick Rooms.
Yes. Well, that's somebody's got to set it up. We got a job to do here. Substitute instead of Earthquake on the Ursaluna. That's cool to keep yourself safe behind your sub. But
I mean, what are you gonna Earthquake? Like the Torkoal that has no Protect, the Indeedee that has no Protect, the Gallade that has no Protect, the Lilligant that has no Protect, and across the Dawnwings that has no Protect.
That's a fair point, but Diego also did not have an immunity on his team for his Earthquake, and he won the event with Earthquake Ursaluna.
What do you mean? Like
he took the Ogerpon, right? The Raging Bolt, the Torkoal.
It was not going to do too much damage to this, you know.
There's literally no.
You got.
There's
and
no
both of the things you would hit for super effective are Terra Grass, though.
Listen. All I wanted to say was when I saw Hisuian Lilligant, it made me think of one of my coworkers that played Legends Arceus and didn't know it's Hisuian, so they call everything Hisuian, like Hisuian Lilligant or Hisuian Arcanine, and I'm like, brother, that I respect it, but that is not.
Do you respect it?
It's like Hisuian Zoroark. I'm like, no, it's Hisuian Zoroark.
Oh my goodness.
It's so good. Shout out to them. It's so funny.
Oh my
They don't know any better, Sierra.
I guess. But yeah, since it's not a broadcasted event, that one has no usage stats. But yeah, a couple of spicy stuff, other just regular Reg G things.
And that's also like I see Shohei and other Japanese players here. Like that's another way for them to get the world's invite, right? If you win a regional in another location. So I'm sure it's easier from Japan to get to Australia than some of the American events, obviously. So
unless he wants to make the trip out to Atlanta, which is where the next regional
maybe
is going to be, the one that
Shohei,
is,
in Atlanta. We get a beer, Shohei. Come on.
I mean, hey, I'll be there, Shohei. If like you want to hang out, I'll hang out with Shohei on your behalf.
Thank you.
Atlanta is this weekend. I am going. Unfortunately, Joe Brown is not. It was funny because like at the beginning of the year, I was supposed to go to San Antonio, and then Joe Brown was not. But then schedule conflicts came up on my end. So
hey, it worked out for the better. So I'm sad because I've never left the Atlanta airport. So I've never actually visited the city, just only been there for connections. So maybe someday I'll get to go to Atlanta. But, I think people are the sentiment. I don't know how you feel on it, Sierra, and how you're going to cover it on the broadcast. But like, people are like kind of like upset with Atlanta with how long Reg G has gone on. And like, oh, this format, why can't we move on, blah, blah, blah. But like, you knew it was going to be Reg G the whole time. Like, why are we all upset now? Like, I've seen a lot of tweets about people being upset, Sierra.
I haven't seen anything. I've also just been kind of like staying off of like Twitter and stuff nowadays. I feel like that's really interesting when there still seems to be breakthroughs in the format. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, on a personal note, like, I definitely am just like a bit bored of Reg G. I also played a bit of Regulation I, and I was like, this does not actually seem better. At least Reg G, you can have something a little saucy, a little spicy, a little something unknown, right? And I can't talk about it from like the player aspect because I do think that Regulation G is a little bit matchup roulette. I think maybe with Reg I you can kind of counter like those matchups,
cover your bases better,
a little better. So maybe for the players that are competing, maybe it is something where they prefer the regulation. But I don't know. I still feel like there is things to crack through here. I would think then maybe that's players that are refusing to get off of the team that they like to play and then are just bored of
that's fair.
That, which is then the question comes in of like, do you try to play new things and like break something, or do you play comfort? Which if it's playing comfort, then maybe valid that they're bored after playing this long of it. But I don't know. That's interesting. I haven't seen any of it.
Yeah, I've seen a number of tweets of just people being like frustrated, like Reg G is so unfun, and like, oh, it's the worst format, it's so matchup roulette, as you said, and like my thoughts are like we should be like, it's not my confusion is not Reg G specific because I know the gripes that people have with it. My confusion is people who are upset or like not excited for Atlanta specifically because of the Reg G, the final event of and like we should be used to this by now with all the rotating formats and like the trading card game, right? The whole last like all of EUSC people were talking about post-rotation when EUSC was not post-rotation, right? Like, so people are constantly used to this churn over and like focusing on the future, but also, or looking forward to the future, I should say, but focusing on the now and what you can build currently. So like, I was just confused that like Atlanta, like I thought people would have been excited. It's the first time in like I don't even know, like 8 years maybe that we've been in Georgia for a regional. It might be 9 years or something. Like I thought there'd be a lot more excitement and anticipation. Like just from my little small, area of the internet, I saw a lot of negativity that people were not excited for Atlanta.
I think the thing of it too, for anyone who's a little bit more casual, I tend to find that the casual viewer base, like they like a lot more of the sauce more consistently. So this little bit of sauce once in a while doesn't necessarily do it for them. So if they're going out to compete, because Atlanta seems to be a decently easy location for people to get to, they're already bored of watching it because it's not spicy enough. So valid. For players that are constantly competing, that are then having to play the comfort, like regardless of any thoughts about the current qualification format, I do think that for anyone who isn't the top of the leaderboards, it kind of forces you to go to the events that you can go to if you want to stay within standing to get your world qualification. We're at the point where it's only a couple months left to get those worlds invites. And again, it isn't a championship point threshold. You can't get the points and then be like, I'm good. I hate this format now. I don't have to go to Atlanta, right? You're like, oh, I'm in 60th place.
Yeah.
That's not safe. Like, where people are like still chasing, like they might have easily over 500 points, but they're not within the top 75, so they're kind of forced to. So I guess if people are kind of falling within that, like it makes sense. Like I definitely think it's a very grindy world qualification format that you're kind of really decentivized to take breaks, which can lead to a little bit more of that format fatigue.
Yeah, especially because it is Reg G 2.0, right? So it is, the burnout is quite literally doubled from the other formats that we've had, because we've experienced it twice. So like, even if people were quote unquote tired of Reg H at the end or tired of Reg F at the end, whatever, like it's this time around we got tired of Reg G twice at this point.
Yeah, 100%. But I mean, I'm still looking forward to Atlanta. The one thing that kind of sucks about Atlanta is like, okay, there's a lot of really cool things nearby. I don't think I'll be able to go to those cool things.
Like the Coca-Cola factory or whatever.
I heard that is like one of the more things to do on the list, the aquarium, the botanical gardens, etc. But like, I don't think I'll be able to go to any of that. Also, I have heard the pollen. I forget who was talking about it in the Discord. The pollen this time of year, if you have allergies, you are cooked. You should not be going outside. Bring any allergy med. Good luck. I tend not to have allergies, but ragweed is something that's definitely prevalent in Ontario during allergy season, and it's something that I struggle with every single year. But growing up in BC, especially where there was a lot of allergens, I never had issues there. So like it's hit or miss for me. So I'm a little worried that I might be struggling for my life in Atlanta, and I just won't know until I get there. Like it's just gonna be fun.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. I'm excited that we're going back to Atlanta. It's obviously a big city, so who knows if like this is a little test market to see like, can we come back to Atlanta? And it's, I don't know what replaces what, right? Because like you can say like, okay, maybe this replaced Charlotte, or like, you know, maybe this replaced Orlando on the schedule. I don't know what did it, but like they're testing out other large cities too, which it's nice to go back to the comfort places that we always like and appreciate and stuff. But sometimes it is nice to get a little change of pace and see if some of these other large cities can also help us, because we're a whole different world now from the last time we had a Georgia regional, because I don't believe it was in Atlanta in specifically. It was just in the state of Georgia. So like from what it was the last time to where we are now, we're worlds apart in the game's quality and the player base and everything. So I'm excited to see people's perspectives on how the weekend goes.
Yeah, it should be fun. See, I'm excited because there is a train directly from the train station to like where like downtown near the convention center is. So like I look at how close things are nearby, if there's easy transportation, and it's already seemed to be great.
I also always get fascinated that when people say, because you visit Detroit sometimes, is that Atlanta is further inland than Detroit. Like it is further west into America than Detroit is, Atlanta. And it's hard to visualize it because Georgia is on the I know, but you just think in your head Georgia is on the water in America, but it's so far inland into Georgia in such a wide state that it's technically further inland than Detroit, which is a good chunk into the country.
I actually don't know squat about American geography, so first off, I didn't know it was in Georgia from the beginning of the conversations, and I wasn't going to admit that, but I'll admit it now because it's funny.
That's fair.
Second, didn't know that it's anywhere near the water. So I just thought it was like.
So I just thought it was like Atlanta is not, but Georgia is a coastal state, but Atlanta is so far inland as a wide state that it is further west into the country than Detroit.
Atlanta is just in that. Yeah, it's just like I'm not surprised here it's west. I thought it was there. Yeah. It's like
to the Americans.
This is like the hand of the United States. I don't know how this shows like on like anything, but like this is East Coast, this is West, and it's like Detroit's here, and it's like anything that isn't like New York or Jersey or like one of the West Coast is like here. It'll always be west of Detroit because it's center. It's center. Yeah.
I got it.
I don't know. So
you'll learn the map one day. You'll get there.
It's been how many? I've been
I'm not
traveling and competing since
you.
2017 and traveling in the States and driven to these events. I do not know. I just click on the Google Maps and drive.
If someone held a gun to my head and said, pin the Canadian provinces in the proper spot, I'd be dead. That's all I'm saying. So I'm not holding it against you that you don't know.
Well, we got a fun little nomadic. It's like British Columbia, Victoria, Alberta, Edmonton, Saskatchewan, Regina, Manitoba, Winnipeg, and it goes from left to right. And then, like, so West Coast,
that was not
East
very
Coast,
fun. That was not.
Including all the little things. And then you go top left to right.
Yeah, you're like New York and California is my Toronto, Vancouver, right? Like, I know Winnipeg's in there somewhere, but don't ask me to bet my life on it. I don't know if I'm going to accurately place Winnipeg or Calgary. I don't know.
With Canada, all you need to know is West Coast, BC, French, Quebec, Ontario, just the big popular province. Everything else sucks. Or you have the territories, which just nobody lives there. It's literally
like, everyone's down here.
Provinces.
Nobody's up there. It's all like
it's provinces and territories because like the left one, like not the left ones, the top ones are territories because nobody lives there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like barely anyone lives there.
Just
and then
the
like
trees.
The right of Quebec is just like the Maritimes. It's a bunch of just like small places. Like you also just don't really know. They talk funny over there. But apparently we talk funny everywhere. It's just different funnies. So you have now learned Canada.
I'm there.
West Coast hates everyone. Ontario hates everyone hates everyone, but we all collectively hate Alberta or like any of the mid places the most. So Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, we all hate the most.
Why?
Alberta and Saskatchewan.
Are they like New York where everyone hates New York or something? Like what did Alberta do?
We just hate it. It doesn't matter.
We just hate them. Okay.
We just hate it.
I'm learning something new every day. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, Alberta's decently popular still. Like that's where like they like the oil and the rodeos. And they got a bunch of stuff, but it's like nope, we hate them. Saskatchewan is just like a bunch of nothing, so we hate it. Manitoba, like frankly, we just don't know anything about Manitoba, so we hate that. Like it's just
okay. Good to know. When I visit Manitoba, is that what it's called?
Manitoba.
When I visit, I'm gonna say my friend hates this place.
And then they'll be like, "Yeah, where is she from?" And then you'd be like, "Oh, she lives in Toronto, but like grew up in Vancouver." And they'll be like, "Yeah, I hate her too."
It's like, yeah, she's
like, "Oh, she went from like Vancouver to like Toronto." Like
that's how they talk in Manitoba. That's some Canadian accent, some thick accent they got in Manitoba. I tell you what.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
See, this is the perfect non-VGC topic, like our Animal Crossing or our dinosaurs, that the listeners they're really appreciating this, Sierra.
The Americans, I'm sure, have already like fast forwarded past this section, or they're just sitting here right now and they're like, "Bro, talk about VGC."
Like, bro, I want to hear your predictions for Atlanta.
Yeah, you're talking about predictions, but the Canadians are like, yes. And then there's someone there from Alberta, and they're like, "I hate you too, Sierra," because of course,
it's their first time listening
British
to the
Columbia
podcast
with your Lululemon.
Like we have they're a first time listener. Like I've heard about this OHKO thing. Let me give it a shot, and then we just trash out their Manitoba, civilization.
Like I said, it's all mutual. They hate us too.
I love it.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. But yeah, I don't know. Like it's not even we're not even talking about Canadian regional coming up. We're talking about Atlanta. I don't know how we're talking about Canada right now, but predictions. We said that we were actually going to do them this podcast for the last Reg G event.
Out of respect for Reg G, the two-time champion here, running this format twice. We're going to actually do some predictions for Atlanta. Sierra's going. Sometimes it's tough with like the European regionals or events that we're not going to run predictions on because we're not as invested because we're not there. But since Sierra's going, we get a nice little send-off. So we have 5 questions here for the Atlanta predictions. Nobody wins anything for those who have forgotten since we haven't done predictions. It's only for like the bigger predictions that things are on the line. But yeah, we're going to try to answer honestly and give our best stuff and keep track. We'll give you an update next week. So we have 5 questions here. Atlanta Regional Championships, the farewell, the goodbye to Reg G, I'm sure you're going to say on broadcast. All right. Unsuspecting restricted Pokemon in Top Cut. So like someone that you're like, wow, I'm sort of like, Eternatus or like something like you're like, wow, I didn't expect this. Like, don't come out with like, Ice Rider. Like, that's not going to work. That's not unsuspecting. We would definitely suspect that.
Well, like, what's like
It doesn't
realistically, like, is like we barely see any Lunala. Like, if you're looking at Brisbane, for example, like, yeah, Lunala won Vancouver, but there's not a single Lunala that made top cut, and there was only one that made day 2 for Brisbane. So it's like, is that unsuspecting enough?
Hold on.
Or like, what's like
my thoughts, because I have Stockholm pulled up too, and there are 2 Lunalas in Stockholm. So I would say after winning Vancouver and having 2 in, like, I would say that's not unsuspecting at this point.
Okay.
So plus I think Lunala's on the graphic too, right?
Oh, is it okay? Well, I was gonna say then, is it just anything on the graphic? Because like I would like we have to like really then like this question is probably going to be resulting with 0 of us getting a point. It's just a funny point if one of us does get it. Is that
so,
what I'm understanding?
It would have to be Eternatus or Zacian or maybe or Groudon is not on the graphic. You can say Groudon. Dawn Wings we just saw got the top cut, right? Like, so it's like a little more of a hard size spam team, just like a restricted that like I could very easily see Zacian getting a top cut spot. Right? Like, we've seen many people cut events with it. Like, is it going to win? Maybe not. But, like, Groudon's prime for the picking. Like, someone could run a Groudon team with some chlorophyll sleep powder action. Like, it's possible, Sierra.
Yeah, I think I will say I'm trying to think between the 2. I think I would say Zacian. I think when I think of Groudon, I just think what it does is just too inconsistent, and Groudon just does it better. Sun teams, I feel like, always have a lot of like, okay, you're having Sun type synergy, but if like the main part of the team is inconsistent, then it kind of is a little rough. And I think Zacian, like, yeah, it kind of struggles with the whole Inciniroar factor of it all, but I think that there is possible ways to build around it. So I'll say, if we're looking at it unsuspecting, I'll say Zacian.
Yeah, I think it's a fair answer. I think a lot of people are kind of hype on Eternatus right now. I know it's been close at a couple of events. People have been trying to make Eternatus work, and there's definitely some potential for it. But I'm going to go Groudon. I could see, like I'm saying, I could see somebody, if top cut is 18 people, I could see one of them being some sleep powder Groudon shenanigans and making it work, some bulky Groudon or something like that. I could see it. That's all. Am I predicting it? No, but it is in my predictions. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. I hear you. Okay, next question.
All right, next question. Our day 1 usage for Calyrex Shadow Rider. Now, we just talked about how in Reg I, everyone and their mother is running Shadow Rider. In Stockholm in specific, it was 24% of day 1 and 28.5% on day 2. So, like, obviously we're in a different region here, but it's the same format. So 24 is kind of the most recent ground that Shadow Rider's been at. Do you think it's going to stick around there? You think it's going to fall? Is it going to rise? What's our day 1 Shadow Rider usage?
What was it? Day 1?
24.
Stockholm?
24. With massively ahead. 17 was Ice Rider and 12 was Miraidon. So, like, significantly ahead is the most commonly used. And then it went up on day 2 into 28. Not that it matters for our prediction, but just to show how strong it was in Stockholm.
On day 1, I'm going to say 18%.
I'll give you 18.
I'm going to say 18.
The 18 there. Yeah, it's kind of tough with predictions too, because you're trying to see the usage predictions, I should say, because you're trying to guess what everybody thinks the meta is going to be, right? And especially, who knows? Maybe people bring out funky stuff since it's the last event, and the conventional stuff gets lowered to like 14 or 15%. I think it's probably going to be number 1. The question is like, what is it going to be at? And I'll go 22, right? 24 or 22 seems like it's relatively in the same area. Obviously, these percentage points are all so close anyway, but I'm thinking 22%. It should, to my head at least, still be the number 1 with Miraidon following in second place. But I would be surprised if Miraidon's number one and Shadow Rider say 2 or 3 in usage. I'd be surprised.
See, like the thing is that makes it weird is like the kind of ebb and flow from like one event to the next with how you'll see like Pokemon kind of staggered. So it's like, yeah, it went up massively for Stockholm, but when you look at Vancouver, it was actually the third top restricted for day one at 13%. Lunala wins, and then we get a lot more Calyrex Shadow Rider. Now the last event, well, we just saw Ice Rider win, right? So I'm just kind of like, I don't know if it's going to be like, okay, like it's going to be as much about the Calyrex Shadow Rider, and maybe it's going to be like, okay, more people are like, Pokemon are good, so I'll bring some. Like, I don't know. It'll be interesting, but that's why I don't think it'd be as dominant or as high.
Yeah. You're kind of middle ground between the two, right?
Yeah.
The 14% and the 24%.
Yeah.
You're playing it safe. I respect it. All right. Next question here for our Atlanta predictions. What is your highest finishing Terapagos team? So it's Terapagos has been, let's see, in Stockholm was 11%, and then it went up to 18% on day 2 of the field. But I think Terapagos has had its ups and downs, certainly in this format, like the highs and lows of it. There's usually probably one in every top cut, right? Event at minimum. So you got a chance if you call a certain spot in top cut. Like you might
First
be right.
thought, best thought, I thought 5th place is going to be the best place in Terapagos.
I think that's probably a good idea because I think a lot of people are going to try to make it work since this is the last event. You know what I mean? Like they want because there are some people that have attachment to Pokemon, right? People that like play Dondozo at every event or play, certain like Hard Trick Room at every event. And I think some of these Terapagos players have felt attached to this archetype and this strategy for the last 2 times.
Terapagos again next regulation.
But it's different. Remember, it's different. The one that we saw had Shadow Rider on it, where we're kind of doing 2 different things here. I'm just saying, I think somebody that hard work could get rewarded. And so one in the top 8, because that's what 5th place obviously would be, is definitely possible. Now, the question is, how do I do this? Do I go top 16 or do I go higher? Do I put more confidence in to Terapagos? And we're going more confident, baby. I'm gonna say finals. I'm saying it's gonna either win or lose. I don't know, but it's making it in the finals, baby. What are your thoughts? What do you think?
I think you have to pick between 1st or 2nd.
No, we have to hold.
No, I said 5th place.
First of all,
I said it's straight up 5th place.
4 people come in 5th, so I don't even know what you're talking about because 4 members in top 8 are technically 5th. So when you say 5th, you're covering 4 people. So if you need
I was thinking like the 5th place, like when you get down to resistances and all this other, like whose name is actually the one fit. No, if you want to take finals and I get like top 8, like that little like 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, like I'll take that,
Yeah, I mean you have double the odds. You have 4 slots.
Yeah,
I only have 2 slots.
Yeah.
So
like yeah.
I think
I was just like looking at like Vancouver, for example. James Beck got 5th place. If you look at it like on paper across the board, like he was 5th. That's what I meant. Like it was.
But he still gets the same money as 6th, 7th, and 8th too.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I just didn't know that's how you're playing it. Yeah, no, I'll take like.
Because I think 5, 6, this 7, might be what I'm rooting for in general, but like because I don't think we had a Terapagos regional win in America. We've had it in other regions in Reg G, but I don't think we had a Terapagos NA region winner, right? From these 2 times we ran it.
No,
so
I don't remember.
I think it would be fun.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying. Okay.
All right, next question.
Interesting, because we talked, this is a little paying off our tease from before here. We talked about how Cornerstone and Hearthflame are so close in usage. Our next question is, what is the higher day 1 usage Ogerpon form, Cornerstone or Hearthflame? For a little bit of context, in Stockholm, and they usually do kind of trade back and forth if you look at a whole bunch of events. Yeah. In Stockholm, Hearthflame was 23, where Cornerstone was 19%, and then in day 2, just Cornerstone took over 24%, and Hearthflame's not even on the graphic. Doesn't matter for our predictions because we're only talking day 1, but usually they hover around 20%, give or take 2 or 3% in either direction. So will Atlanta be more Cornerstone or more Hearthflame on day one?
Day one, I say Hearthflame. I think it's just kind of the trend that it's normally the Hearthflame, and then we might see the little swapperoo. But I'm gonna say Hearthflame for sure.
Okay,
even if it's close, I think it'll be Hearthflame.
I'm gonna go with my girl. I'm gonna stay consistent. I'm gonna root for Cornerstone, and also I should probably do, if I'm parlaying these predictions, like if I'm predicting Terapagos, there's also Cornerstones on the Terapagos teams,
It's true.
Trying to think of it.
You could be extra right or extra wrong.
hey, listen, when you do a parlay, all you have to do is get one part wrong. Like my whole bet's broken then at that point. But I do this sometimes, like with football, where I do a 1 o'clock at 4 o'clock, whatever. And if the 1 o'clock game ends, it's like, all right, cool. Now I'm not stressing for the rest of the day, because if I only stress at the end if I need to hit 3 of 3. If my first one in the leg is broken, I don't have to stress anything. I already know the result,
Sure, this is relatable content for somebody. It is not for me right now.
Listen, you play the odds, okay? You play TFT, you know the odds.
I'm bad at the odds. I'm bad at TFT. This is a terrible example. Terrible. Right. I also, all my Valorant predictions, I bet on the underdog all throughout playoffs, and it was against the odds, but I was right most of the time.
That's what I'm saying.
Let's go.
You're good at this. You're good at the predictions.
But yeah, it was against the odds, so that's not playing odds. But yeah, next question.
All right, final prediction question for Atlanta. The classic. Who will win the Atlanta Regional Championships? Now, technically, we used to say nobody's ever gotten it right, but Justin Karras filled in on an episode, and he predicted Wolf to win the EUIC, so we finally had somebody get a proper winner prediction. So the pressure's on, Sierra. Who's going to win?
All right, well, it's definitely been more than the cooldown for this, but I want to say with the last Reg G event, I think I will put my bet on Ugarte for this. He has gotten 2 second places within Regulation G. I don't know if he's switching it up or using the same team, but he's been really good at this format. And I think he's a little overdue for a win right now. He also performed well at USC. He's performed, he's gotten the 2 second places. He performed well across the board. So screw it,
it's smart. Let's do the math, okay? Because usually we have the cooldown. And so we would have Milwaukee, Portland, NAIC. You got Joe back for Worlds, baby. Let's go.
Didn't I screw it up last year or something? Where
I think so. Yeah, I think it was either NAIC or Worlds. You couldn't use him. I forgot what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Worlds because
So my only trepidation here, Sierra, is I don't know if Toller is going. I know he went to college in Georgia, but Georgia's a big state. I know he doesn't go to every event. Toller does go to a lot of events, but I don't know if he goes to every event. So, I don't know if Toller is going to be in Atlanta. So I don't want to predict it if I don't know if he's coming.
So at this point in time, I think he is going to be there. Whether, players sometimes change things up, I don't know. But I'm willing to give you a backup option if Toller doesn't end up showing, but I'm pretty sure as of this point he is going.
Okay, so my backup would be James Beck. Just like you said, he also got top cut in Vancouver, so he's on a run, and obviously he's won a bunch of regionals, so you can do it. But if Toller is there, that's my bet. If he's not, my backup is Beck. But I think he should be there. It's kind of in his region.
I'm pretty sure, but you can have a backup. So
okay,
it's all good.
So how confident do you feel? How confident do you feel in all of your predictions?
I feel good. I feel confident. I wouldn't predict stuff I think's gonna lose.
Well, sometimes you got to go out on a limb, right?
I feel good about these.
Never taken a risk in her life. The sleep powder lady has never gone out on a limb ever.
Sometimes you just click the button and beforehand.
All right, so. We actually, I forgot about our question of the day. I'm looking at it right now. We got it, Sierra. Don't worry.
You got one?
I'm a little rusty. Okay. I'm a little tired. It is what it is. So, our question of the day. We always end every podcast episode with a question from one of our members in the Discord. So, if you ever have any burning questions you would like to ask Sierra or myself, join our Discord in the description down below and ask us in the Question of the Week channel. And I think this is probably just like a nice little palate cleanser on this episode from Fendi G. If you were in the Pokemon world, what would your dream job be? I think it's simple enough. Have a nice little fun conversation. Pokemon's real. Congratulations. You're in the Pokemon world. What would your dream job be?
Okay, so in this Pokemon world being real, like obviously there's some jobs, etc., that we get to see do exist in the Pokemon world because we get to see it in media. But assuming like an actual cohesively running world, there's a lot of other jobs, etc. Are we saying like only things that we've really seen, or is this just kind of like
No,
putting
I mean
it out
like
there as well?
if you want to be like a CPA or like an accountant or whatever in the Pokemon world, have at it. Like just because Ash doesn't interact with them doesn't mean that they don't exist. Somebody's got to pay taxes for all those Nurse Joy visits.
I think the job I would want to do anyways. Like, I mean, it's such like a cop out, but like, and I'm gonna assume like not just assume like, but everyone I'm sure would be like, I want to be a Pokemon champion, I want to be a Pokemon battler. We're just off limiting.
Yeah, it's not a job title.
That's
you
boring.
won a
that's
tournament.
Boring.
That's not a job title. Yeah.
There is people that actually commentate over the Pokemon battles and stuff in the Pokemon universe, and like, bro, like, I mean, it's such like an easy answer, but like that would be the coolest thing, right? Like, it's like, because like obviously like esports and like sports broadcasting is pretty similar, but I definitely still feel like for a lot of the cases, like the sports broadcasting is just like, it's the classic, that's what they've been doing for ages. And I feel like Pokemon battling in real life would be a lot more similar to like sports casting.
Yeah.
And I think that would just be so cool. So.
I'm right there with you. I would still want, like, the same way as like, oh, if you were a trainer, what would you want? I'm an ace trainer because I play the game competitively. Like, oh, if you could do a job, I'm a commentator. I'd like to commentate Pokemon.
Yeah, it's like I already have my dream job, so and this dream job existing in this dream universe, it's like,
let's expand it then, Sierra. Let's say no commentary allowed. They've already hired, I don't know, Gabby and Evan as the Kanto region commentators. So we're out of luck. What would our jobs be then?
The very first thought I got, like kind of like the Pokemon like breeding centers where they like take care of the other Pokemon. Like offhand, that just seems like it'd be cute because you get to like see all these other Pokemon. Like I think of it like, oh, someone has to take care of, like, it's like a dog kennel and it's like you have to take care of other people's dogs. Oh no, isn't that just adorable, right? I definitely do think, like, I just love Pokemon so much. Like, I think that's whatever dream job that I have in the universe, I would want it to be attached to Pokemon in some sort of way. So I think something like that, take care of other people's Pokemon, like the breeding center, is just like what I think of offhand.
That's fair. Like a little Pokemon caretaker, some type of, I think that's fair. That could work.
Yeah.
Now, what's the word? Like, I don't know. I don't want to sound like an idiot, but like, like, I don't want to just say like have a garden. And so like, what's like that industry? What would that job, like, you control a whole
gardening?
Like, no, but like there's like a full, like, I'm not just making a garden in my backyard, like a whole industry of like, like the doing like the fertilization and the plants and like growing flowers, and like I'd have my Ivysaur next to me and he'd help
landscaping?
me. Like, I guess, but like, I'm not cutting the grass. That's somebody else's job, So like some type of florist, maybe that works, right? That's a term. That's a thing people
say. And then work alongside Pokemon.
And I work alongside Pokemon in gardens, and we grow the flowers and we grow tomatoes and whatever. It's a horticulture, right? Isn't that the category of, isn't horticulture, like, I believe that is the category I'm talking about. But yeah, I'd have an Ivysaur with me. They could, like, reach all the hard reaching spots with the vines and stuff, and I'd deal with like flowers and plants and fruits and things all day. I think it'd be a simple life. It'd be a much simpler life than the ones we're currently living.
That's fair. I think if I was to say something that's not already like set as something that's a job in the Pokemon universe, like to make up like a job, something that I wanted to do, but then didn't have the funds or means to go to college or university to follow through on, is I wanted to become an interpreter. Like, You literally sit there, someone's speaking a language, you spit out the language on the different language on the other end of it, right? But I would imagine that there's going to be, if like a Pokemon universe, like some sort of variation of that, like for Pokemon,
You're a Poke
right?
Whisperer.
Yeah, well, it's like interpreting, like, like I feel like that's something that like as Pokemon kind
Charmander
of
says he's
evolve,
hungry
like
right now. That's
yeah, like they like talk, right? But like even at like the higher level, like I'm sure in like a whole Pokemon world, like obviously a lot of things are expected to be peaceful, but like yo, you really do not think that if like all these super like this powerful group of psychic Pokemon all band together and they want to take over the city, you don't think they could? Like they got powers, we don't, right?
yeah.
And like there's going to be conflicts, going to be all this other stuff, and it's going to need interpretation. And like you interpret one Pokemon, but like
and you could do
that would just be cool. Like you're out walking and you hear the Pokemon talk, and that'd be cool.
Well, like I don't know if they're not interpreters now, like the dog trainers or animal trainers, and they're like, oh, you see this stance, or you see his tail doing this, or you see the way the head, like that is them signaling this. Like you would know all the cadences and all the body language of all the Pokemon and stuff. And like, no, Bulbasaur is actually upset right now because it's flipped on its stomach, or like all of that stuff.
Well, no, interpreting is like
but you don't know what they're actually saying. You're understanding the body language and the signals, the signs that they're primitively giving because they don't have speech.
They do have speech. Have you not seen the anime? Meowth literally talks and he tells you what the Pokemon are saying. It's just in a language that we do not understand.
But who's gonna teach you the language?
Dude, I don't know. But like obviously it's learned at some point because Meowth speaks it, like there's that is going to be a whole world. I'm sure in a fully evolved Pokemon world, it's not something that's explored, but I'm sure that there is like linguistics and like all of this stuff to figure out like what's being said. And like, yeah, maybe on the comment, like you don't speak other languages because it's not something that like you've gone throughout your life to search, right?
Sure, but I know.
So the adventures that we're following in the Pokemon universe,
speaking, like I don't know.
But like in the Pokemon universe, like there's obviously like the different countries, there's the different languages, and then there's an extra level because also like on top of like French, English, Spanish, Japanese, like Korean, there's also Pokemon language that's now being added to that. That's like an extra thing you got to know. So if you want to interpret for the UN, it's not just English, French, Spanish, German, Chinese, Japanese, and I'm missing one. It might be Korean. I'm not 100% sure. You'd also have to learn Pokemon. You now have to know 8 languages if you want to interpret for the UN, right?
Okay. So how do you I'm very curious how this new job works. Now, when you are interpreting it and when you are understanding what, say, I don't know, Machamp is saying or Lucario or whoever, do you respond in English, or do you just respond with their name like they do? Do you just say Charmander, just like Charmander does?
Well, like that's where like the weird thing is because like Pokemon like understand English, but I would guess in like a total like like going into that world of language, I'm assuming like there's like you'd also like be able to talk back, But then it's weird because you don't really see that in Pokemon because they just understand English. So,
that that Unovan Talonflame dialect is really different than the Paldean Talonflame dialect.
Might be,
Do you think like Southern dogs bark differently than Northern dogs? Is that? Like you had if you have a golden retriever from Atlanta,
on like where it was, like cats could meow differently. Like, I don't know.
Like you have a golden retriever that lives in Atlanta and a golden retriever that lives in Boston. Are they barking differently? You'll find out. You'll find out when we get that job.
I'll go looking out on the streets for anyone walking their dog and ask if they can make it bark, so I can come back next week with the answer to your question.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right. Anything else from us as we go on the weirdest tangents twice for this episode?
Crazy. That's what the people live for. People live for us here. Look at us. We're like, how are we going to have an episode? And here we are an hour and 39 minutes later. Absolutely crazy. No, have fun in Atlanta. Post some photos. Quickly before we end, talk about the meetup in Atlanta. People are going to like at the event. I don't know, just find like everyone stand under the Mew poster. Or like, I don't know how you guys are going to plan this, but our OHKO listeners that are attending the Atlanta Regional Championship, I hear conversations, chitter chatter in the Discord that we're going to have a little meetup there.
Okay, so first off, nothing's official. I had
That's not an official
mentioned
meetup.
that depending on availability, other people want, etc., that there may or may not be just like a specified time on the Sunday. A little easier because people might be competing on the Saturday. To quickly meet up, I will have OHKO stickers. If you see me at any point during the weekend, I will have OHKO stickers. If you talk to me, say hi, introduce yourself, and you want a sticker, please ask for one. Because there's definitely been times people have like, oh my, like, hi, I'm a fan. And then I'm like, do you want a sticker? And they look at me like I have two heads. If you want a sticker, please ask me for a sticker. Again, I'm a pretty socially anxious person. Please don't make me ask you if you want a sticker. And if I am just socially awkward with you, please understand that it's not personal. It's literally, I'm just a socially awkward person. But that being said, we were talking about maybe just having a setup time on the Sunday. I could be a little difficult to find sometimes because of said reason. So if that is something that you're interested in as well, I might have to run, but there's a lot of awesome people in the OHKO community. So even if you're looking to try and make a friend, try and say hi to the other people there, you can all chat with each other. So keep an eye on that in the Discord. If you're listening to this on Spotify or on YouTube right now, there is links in the description for said Discord. So if you're going to Atlanta, that you can maybe meet up with some other awesome Pokemon people.
Yeah, and even if Sierra's busy, I just meant in general, like OHKO fans could meet up to take a photo, or like just like let's be at this point and say hi, introduce ourselves, because we do have members that are first regionals they're going to, or maybe they don't have. They've interacted with people in our Discord but haven't seen each other in person to talk to or whatever. I do think it's bold of you to assume you're going to have any stickers available if Marcos is around, because he's just going to steal every sticker and say he doesn't have any.
Bro has so many. Bro. If I run out, I'll just go up and be like, all right, hand him over, you know. But yeah.
Yeah, I hope you have fun. Hope it should be a fun time.
It should be fun. I'm looking forward to it. But we got to end this podcast. It is past 11 at night. Old man Joe needs to go to bed. I need to get dinner because I didn't get to eat that before starting the podcast. So I was working on Valorant.
My goodness.
I literally ended broadcast and then like quickly got to go to the washroom, get a protein drink, and we're back recording. So yeah, I gotta go eat dinner. It's already 11. But if you made it to this point in the podcast, thank you all so much for listening through all the tangents, everything else. We appreciate you. Again, even if you're not going to Atlanta, but you want to talk to an awesome community of members, there is the OHKO server. They talk about Pokemon, just whatever comes up, etc. And yeah, the links are in the description, no matter where you are listening. And if you're in Atlanta, say hi, ask for a sticker. And even if you're not interested in saying hi or whatever, but you are going, safe travels there. Best of luck in competing, whether it's a main event, side event, etc. But thank you all again so much for listening. We'll see you next week for the next episode of OHKO. Take care.